when I remember my first dial day, I was so nervous. I wanted to make some appointments. And then I made all my appointments, and then I didn't know what to do when I got to the appointment, and found my way through it. And this gentleman here is somebody who's a Hall of Fame producer. What does that mean? He went out in the last calendar year and helped over 400 families. And just in the past 7 days, went out and helped 47 families. All right. He was number one on a bunch of lists and number one in my heart, Mike Curry. I got to tell you, buddy. No, for real. So I remember when my wife got started, she got started a couple weeks before I did, and she was working on a Sunday, and we didn't have anybody to call. We didn't know what we were going to do to figure out what to write, because we were new and didn't know the underwriting or the products or anything. And this guy took our calls, and he had really no financial incentive to do so other than he's just a darn good guy. So anyway, what's going on, Mike? You can unmute.
What's up, dude? That's quite the introduction.
Well, I mean, you deserve it, right? Check and the check's in the mail.
Thank you, dude, man. I love you guys. Love your team. So excited to be on.
Heck yeah. Well, cool. Well, I pretty much everybody here knows you as just dropping huge sales, always selling, team, agency Valiant. You guys are crushing, but most people don't know, what you were doing, 18 months ago. So just kind of catch up speed on what you were doing, how you found FFL, and then we'll dive into the meat and potatoes here.
Yeah. So, and again, thanks for having me on, man. Really excited. So, background. So I'm a high school dropout. I'm going to start including that because I think that's kind of cool now. High school dropout, got my GED, and kind of wandered my way into appliance repair. Met a good dude that gave me some basic training that got me on with a company where I started fixing, washers, dryers, refrigerators, all that good stuff. And just kind of found my home there, was really content. And, after a while of seeing, it's kind of the same thing here, right? Same objections. You start to see the same problems. It kind of becomes easy. You get content going through the motions. And I knew Grady Polson from, back in 2012, right around that time frame, from a network marketing company that most people at FFL, it seems to be in at some point. And just kind of followed, saw FFL America. I didn't really think nothing of it on a personal level, but I have a buddy that lives in Virginia, where I'm from, who his parents and family have a insurance business. They do a lot of health stuff. And I sent it to him, not knowing anything about it. And he was like, yeah, you should do that. And I just kind of laughed, right? Having my GED. I just didn't know. I had no idea what insurance sales was. I thought you had to have some degree, all this crazy stuff. And, long story short, July of 2020, Grady had reached out, and we had our little daughter, Haley, and congratulated us. And we started talking, and I asked him about it, and watched the, agency overview, like most of you guys have, or if you're watching this, probably will at some point. And it just kind of blew my mind, because my wife had, Kate had always desired to stay home with the kids. And with, 50 or 60 grand a year appliance repair job, that just wasn't happening, not with the lifestyle we wanted to live. So anyway, saw the income potential, saw the opportunity to go out and help families. And it's, like you said, it's a wild 15 months. So here we are.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Appliance repair, insurance sales. I totally get the connection. So I know a little bit about the story. So how did your first 30 days go?
Yeah, it was kind of surreal. So I started, I guess you could say my first 45 days, because I started part-time, or thought I was going to do this part-time. And I was so bad at it. I remember I'm sitting at the table I'm sitting at now, and my first couple dials, man, I'm like I couldn't even breathe to talk, right? And the first person answered, and I hung up. And, Kate's standing in the kitchen, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, man, I was scared to death. And dude, I called my clients or whatever, customers before I'm used to talking on the phone. It's not like I'm a shy person by any means, but it was just the scariest thing. Right. And then, got a lot of rejection, started to try to run some appointments, after work, which my job, I never knew when I was going to be off. So, I went out and crushed it. I was 0 for 10, my first 10 sits. And, Kate had this bright idea that I should quit my job. And I'm like, look, if the wife blesses it, then I ain't got nothing. Like, it's not my fault. Right. So I took her advice and quit my job, put my 2 weeks in. Everybody thought I was crazy. My job, people at my job was making bets on how fast I'd be back. Some redneck appliance dude, going to go sell insurance. Right. So anyway, so I got through my first 30 days and I added the numbers up. You guys that know how the numbers kind of add up here. And it was 26 families. My first 30 days kind of blew my mind. And, I have no clue, just showed up.
So went from first 10 big goose egg to 26 families in the first month. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It probably had something to do with like not having other options. You had to make it work, I would imagine.
I think that was a lot to do with it. Yep.
I mean, Kate's a sweetheart, but she is also scary. I can see that.
She always believed in me. So, I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, if you don't believe in yourself right now, find somebody that does and just go to work.
Yeah. I love that. If you don't know who say that again. What'd you say?
So if you don't believe in yourself, find somebody who does and go to work. And then eventually you'll believe in yourself. Just rely on them.
I love that. All right. So fast forward, we're here, we're, you made those sales and, when you get in the home, or of course, we'll kind of incorporate some telesales because that's kind of what you've been doing lately, right? Like, what does that look like? And what you and I have talked about, what I found. So my first day, I remember my first set of appointments was kind of rough. And then I was watching a video, much like what we're going to talk about. And they're like, hey, this is kind of the structure. This is kind of what you want to do, what you want to say. And I got that. I took a bunch of notes and it was like, after that, I mean, it clicked. And I felt like I used to, when I first started, after I really got ramped up, I wouldn't count how many sales I made a week. I would count how many people told me no, and I could always count it on one hand. Right. And so I just felt like I had like a secret weapon after that. So let's jump into it. I guess. So let's kind of go through what you would call maybe your structure real quick. And then I got some follow-up questions so we can kind of like dig in a little bit.
Gotcha. So, to me, so I do the same, and I don't know how you feel about this, but obviously transitioning into telesales, like I feel like people make it a lot scarier than it really is. I mean, I did that to myself, but I think that my in-home or over the phone, whatever you want to call it, is almost the exact same, right? So like when I'm sitting at my desk, I'm visualizing, they're on speakerphone, but it would be just like they're sitting there with me. Right. So nothing like mentally, nothing's really changing. So do you want me to get into like what I do to like set the table or?
Yeah. We'll start there. Right. Well, okay. So like I'm in, we're here. I'm across the table from you. Let's just kind of kick it off.
Gotcha. Okay. So in home or over the phone?
Let's start with in home.
In home. Okay. So in home, it's been forever since I've done one. So in home, sitting down at the table, obviously I like to have my ID badge. I don't actually get my state license out unless they ask me, but first thing I'm doing is sliding the lead card over in front of them, right? Whatever that is. If most all my in-homes were internet leads. So, it says the instant internet lead inquiry or whatnot. And I always like to kind of like, when I was calling on the phone, I'd fix the information so that it looked like, they remember the phone conversation. Anyway, so I slide that, make sure they confirm it, right? I have them looking at it. Hey, make sure all that's accurate. While they're doing that, I'm getting my, the financial inventory, the carrier sheet, those documents out. And once they confirm the information, I'm like, okay, real quick, Josh, like I told you, my name's Mike. I am a licensed insurance broker, underwriter, whatever you want to call me. This is going to be super easy for you today. And my job is just to run through a quick medical background and financial background. And then what we're going to actually do is we're going to find something that fits the budget, makes sense, and we're going to submit a request for coverage today. Okay. If I'm in the home, I'm going to say, for us to submit a request, we are going to need a valid driver's license and a bank account and routing number. Okay. You don't need to get that yet. I don't leave like, I don't want there to be a pause there. Right. So I just go ahead and tell you don't need to go get that yet. Right. Just assume that they're going to give it to you. Okay. Not going to go get that yet. Okay. But first, let's just go ahead and start here. I like what Josh or Jake Cohen said, which was, what do you want this policy to do for you? I love that. If like, that's what I do now. What I was doing was, okay, what pushed you to fill this out? That was my question at that point. Right. But I like, what do you want this policy to do for you? I think it's very direct and it requires them to think about it. Right. So you find that out. Hey, I want to make sure that, my wife doesn't have to worry about my final expenses, or, I want to make sure the mortgage is protected, whatever that is. Right. It doesn't matter. Whatever the need is. Right. You find that out. And then you paint a picture of the situation, right? Like, okay, do you guys have any insurance now? I always like to ask that. Do you guys have any insurance now? Right? A lot of times they'll say, I have work insurance. If they say I have work insurance, yep, most people do. Like, right? Disagree with them. If they say they have private insurance, which I like, I hope they do. This is like my favorite thing. They say, yeah, I have a policy. It's like 100,000, whole life or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? I want that information. I'm hoping they have a policy, and then I want to find out how much it costs. And if they don't know the details, I want to make them feel kind of bad. I like to say, feel like an idiot for not knowing, right? Like I want them to be like, you don't have that? You don't have the information? Like nobody left you any information, especially if they did it recently, right? But I want to know how much they're paying right there before I ever get into anything, how much they're paying for the insurance and how much coverage it is. And if they don't know, I want them to go get it, right? Before we can start. And if they give me pushback, I'm like, look, the insurance carrier is just going to want to know what you have, right? So that there's no overlapping policies. Okay. So you go get them to go get it. And then from there, come back and then I'll assess the policy, but we'll start with health questions. I always start with health questions on the medical or financial inventory, right? So I'm starting with the health questions. And I'm just asking straight up. I don't go to prescriptions yet. I'm saying, hey, Josh, have you ever had any heart attacks, strokes, or cancer? Any diabetes, right? Going through the health questions. If I have a good indication, right? Like if it's questionable at all, like I am always going America. This is my personal preference, opinion. It's my belief in the products. I'm always going America. Like the only way I'm not going America is if America says no, right? So a good rule of thumb is if they've had a heart attack or stroke in like the last 6 months to a year, if they have active cancer, if they're on oxygen, or they're very large, which I'll be honest, I haven't met a lot of people that are like crazy obese. Like you see them, but not that many, right? Like then my assumption is America, always. And I'll act like I know what I'm talking about with prescriptions, which is something as you guys grow, you'll learn. If they say, yeah, I say, you guys do you have high blood pressure? Yeah. Is it, lisinopril or metformin or something like that? Yeah, it's that one, or if they say, yeah, the only thing I take is cholesterol. Okay. One of the statins, right? Like just act like you do it, what you do, but say things like that. It gives people belief in you. Right. And then that's all I do there. And then I'm literally telling them, okay, so here's the way this works, Josh. So I'm going to go ahead and run through a HIPAA authorization for you. It's going to give me a good direction on which way we can go. And then I'm opening up the Americo E app. Okay. I don't know that we want to get into like how to differentiate between if I want to go CBO or final expense. It just depends on their health. Like if I'm confident that they could get a CBO, I don't care if they're 59 years old. I'm going CBO all day long because I want value, right? Like I'm selling value. I don't want it to be replaced. So I don't know where you want me to keep going. I don't know where you want me to kind of.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know what you're going to say. And I actually didn't, somebody told me that you trained on this recently and I didn't even think of it. So yeah, if you want to touch on that real quick.
Okay. So I'll use this exact same analogy. Okay. So say we have a healthy, because this is something I think a lot of people don't think about. Say we have I got to scroll it forward. I'm sorry. Here it is. All right. Say we have a healthy 59-year-old male, non-smoker. Okay. I'm just going to give you like an easy example. Okay. And say they want it doesn't matter. Say they want their final expenses covered. Okay. 25 grand. We'll just use 25 grand because I've already got the illustration. So 59-year-old non-smoking male. Okay. And Eagle, right? If we were to go Americo Eagle, okay. Most of you guys, most people, me in the past would have went Americo Eagle, right? Whole life, whatever. Okay. 25 grand. Okay. Well, if you look at the CBO 100, you can also, the minimum's 25 grand, right? So do you guys know what the difference, and I've already got this up, but most people would not believe this, but for a $25,000 Eagle at 59 years old in South Carolina, which I'm sure all the states are relatively the same. In South Carolina, it's $118.68 a month. Okay. The CBO for 25 grand at 59 is $117.19. So it's like 70 cents, almost $1 cheaper, right? That's a 20-year, right? 20-year term. So if he's 59, 20 years, 79, right? So if he dies in 20 years, he gets 25 either way, right? The difference is the CBO has the heart attack, stroke, cancer, right? Invasive cancer, the kidney failure, all that's the living benefits, whereas the Eagle only has the terminal illness rider, right? Which the CBO has as well. The difference is, the 59-year-old that lives till 85, right? I mean, over time, obviously you get a little cash value built up, but the CBO is going to give him 28 grand back. 28, 125 or 175. Can't even read my own handwriting, but it's going to give him basically 28 grand back at 79 years old, right? So he has 25 if he dies, has 25 if he has a heart attack next week. And then if he doesn't die, he's going to get 28 grand back, which is more, right? So CBO cuts off at 60, right? So anything over 60, then it's a term 100. And if you were just doing like a policy like a 25,000 Eagle would probably make more sense, unless it's a mortgage, and you want more than 30. But anyway, so 28 grand, right? And you get all your money. So like, see how that makes more sense? See how that's harder to replace?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, yeah, one, you're like, hey, I know I'm getting something. The other one's just like, right. Yeah, I'm just going to keep.
They can take their final expenses out of that 28,000. They can do whatever they want. Right. So it gives them more flexibility and more protection with the living benefits. Because to be truthful, like I capitalize on people's egos all the time, right? Like I don't know how you guys are, but I run into a lot of people who tell me they're not dying anytime soon. I personally would never say that, but use it to their advantage. Yeah, you're probably not. So okay, let's just go ahead. Would it be fair to say, Josh, that most likely cause, you probably have a heart attack, stroke, or cancer before dying, right? Like you probably know people that have that all over the place, right? And you say, yeah, like, okay, so that's why this one makes more sense. That's why we're going to go with this policy that gives you the living benefits, because the death benefits, worst case scenario, right? You probably have life insurance, but this is also going to include the life insurance. So it's also going to pay if you die, worst case scenario. So we can go ahead and wrap that other $200 policy into this one. We can bump it up to 3. See, that's how I get bigger premiums. It's hard for me to like just explain out of the blue, but every situation is different. So it's digging into their situation, what they have, what they want, what they need, their family, where their family lives, right? Could be a husband and wife that divorced and the wife lives, 500 miles away in a different state, and it's like, there's so many different scenarios. That's why it's like, it's really crucial to ask questions and find out like what their situation is. And then all you're doing is problem solving. So you're piecing a puzzle together for them. And when you do that, you build so much value in what you have to offer them that it's like, they can't say no, because I can promise you, I can promise you 90 plus, probably 99% of the other people that are talking to them aren't going into that much detail. they're walking in and they're like, oh, you want 25 grand? Okay, here this is. And they don't explain nothing. And then somebody calls back next week and replaces your policy with a graded policy because they have no idea what they even got from you. It's just cheaper.
No. Yeah.
That's why people sell small policies, and that's why they get a lot of chargebacks.
Yeah. So, okay, couple questions. Do you ask people like, hey, how much coverage are you trying to get?
Yes, always.
Okay.
Because I want to sell them what they want, right? If they don't, so there's two ways it could go. If they're unsure, I'll tell them, right? So if they're like hesitant, well, I don't know, okay, well, how much is your mortgage? Do you have a mortgage, right? How much, all this stuff. You just piece it all together, right? Like you just kind of put everything together with what they have, with their spouse, child, or whatever they, would have to afford or take care of.
So what if, they say, I want $50,000 and, they're 70 years old and they're on a fixed income and, that they're not going to be able to afford 50,000 and you're like, or maybe you show them 50,000. They're like, I can't afford it. Like,
okay,
what, how do you handle that?
Okay. So yeah. So if they were to say that, then I would turn around and say, okay, Josh, so let's do this, because all the insurance companies, right? Like if they're all state regulated, so the prices are all within a few dollars of each other. Okay. The main thing is finding the one that you can qualify for that actually fits your situation. So let's do this. All right. Go ahead and tell me a ballpark amount that you want to spend per month that you were planning to put towards this. And I'll go ahead and find the max coverage for you. And then most people will say, you'd be surprised. People that you think only want to pay 50, 60 bucks a month will say, a couple hundred. Swear to you, every single time. Like your mind would be blown at what they say. Okay. Two things. If they say that, most people do, it's easy. You go through and you find out max coverage. All right. You always get it a little cheaper, right? Like 190, something like that. Oh, looks like I can get you, 40 grand for 190, whatever. If they say, well, I don't know, they're trying to play hardball. And I just tell them straight up, like, look, Josh, this ain't a car sale. Like there's no negotiation. I'm on your side. The prices are already fixed, right? So if you give me an idea, I'll find the company that will give you the max coverage, right? And then that eases the stress or the tension that they feel like they don't want to tell you because they think that like, if they tell you a number, like you're just trying to take advantage of it. So that's usually how I get around that part.
Okay. No, that's good. Cause I think it's kind of natural to, they go, well, I can't afford it. And then you're like, oh, maybe I can go find another company and you turn into the quoter guy.
Yeah. Find out what they can.
Yeah.
And you take back control.
Okay. Awesome. So you're punching everything in. Let's talk about, okay, you're getting through the health questions in the e-app and you landed on, the coverage and the price. How do you, before we even get to that point, how do you show numbers? What do you do? And how do you quote unquote close the sale?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't say anything. I don't touch numbers until Americo. Let's assume they get approved with Americo. Most people do. So Americo says, hey, they can, the prescription check went through, HIPAA thing that we were doing, right? I'm racing through the e-app trying to get to the payer screen. Before it, just a game I play. Jamie used to play that game and I was like, this is kind of cool. So I'm just going to race it, right? Get to the payer screen. And then say it says, hey, client may qualify, whatever. So I've got the whole e-app done, right? I've got beneficiary, if it's a CBO or, term, I've got the doctor's information, which, hey, who's your doctor? I'll Google the information, whatever. Make it super simple for them. I'll go back to the payment or not payment, the product screen, right? Where I use that as my quote tool, right? So I'll start there. And then that's essentially like where I'm going to show prices, right? So I don't show, I'm not the 3 option guy. I'm the right option guy. I always say that I'm the right option guy. So I literally, I ask them first of all, right? I don't know about you guys. I like to sell things to people that they want, right? Like I like to get a good idea of what they want and then I'll give it to them, right? I'll give them the best option. So So you have to ask a little bit. You have to ask really good questions to pull that out from, right? So if it's a mortgage appointment, final expense, I feel like it's so straightforward, like, whatever, right? 15, 20, 25, that what, cremated, buried, whatever. So we'll kind of get into mortgage because I think it scares a lot of people, and it's really simple. It's the same stuff, just a different asset per se. So, right. So I'm like, okay, so say the mortgage is like 200 grand, or doesn't even matter, but just say it's 200 grand, say it's a CBO, because we know it goes 450, right? So I'll ask John or Josh, just stick with the same name. I'll ask Josh, were you planning on taking care of the whole mortgage, or did you want to do, I'll just start somewhere. Were you planning on taking the whole mortgage, taking care of the whole mortgage, or half, right? Almost everybody says, yeah, take care of the whole thing, right? So if they say the whole thing, I don't care how much it costs. Like, I think this is what separates my mindset from other people, right? Like, whenever you guys go buy things, right? If you went and bought a couch, if you went and bought whatever, like, how much you can pay, right? I mean, when you go to a store to make a purchase, even if you're going to buy a car, right? Like, you have in your mind, you're not paying more than $500 or $700, whatever it is, doesn't matter, right? They have in their mind what they want to put towards this every month. They already know. So I'm not the guy that digs through their budget, because I don't want to be nosy. I don't want to come across as nosy. It's just my personal opinion, right? I trust that I know that if I show up somewhere, I know how much I want to spend. Okay. So if I show them the full mortgage and they want to see the full mortgage, right? Say it's $600, just for simple math, right? Say it's $600. If it's a CBO, okay, when I show them this, I'm not just showing $600, right? Okay. I'm sending, whether I'm sitting in front of them or I'm on the phone, right? If I'm on the phone, I'm texting an image. If I'm sitting in front of them, I'm showing it to them in person, right? It's the CBO on fflamerica.com/downloads. There's that CBO or HMS, step-by-step product features guide, right? Like, I'll text that to them, show it to them, and I'll run through before I show the price, what we're looking at, right? Because I want them to be sold on what it's actually doing for them, right? So I'm like, okay, Josh, so just so you know, just like life insurance, this is going to pay when you die, okay? But the reason why most people want mortgage protection is not for the death benefit, right? Because the death benefit you can get in just regular life insurance, right? We want the living benefit, and we want the money back at the end, right? And then they say, right, like that, they agree with you. They don't even know what they're saying, but they're agreeing with you. You just get them, nodding or whatever, agreeing with you, right? So then I lay out, I say, okay, so if you have a heart attack, stroke, invasive cancer, kidney failure, anything like that, okay, here's the cool thing about what this is going to do. This is going to pay you while you're alive $200,000. Okay. If this is approved tomorrow, you'll be paid $200 if you have a heart attack Friday. Okay. $200 or $200,000. Okay. Now, there's other companies that have some of this type of coverage, but the crazy thing about what this product is it's literally going to give you 100% of that, whereas a lot of companies will only give you 50 to 75%. Okay. So this is like what we call, it's kind of funny. I don't know if you're a car guy, joke around, right? Especially if it's a guy, this is like what we call the Ferrari of insurance or Lamborghini of insurance. Okay. So pay you 200, heart attack, stroke, cancer, kidney failure, anything like that. Okay. If you were to become disabled for more than 90 days, you're laid up, say you had a car accident, something crazy, God forbid, but say you had a car accident, you're laid up, you can't, feed yourself, bathe yourself, any 2 of the 5 daily functions for 90 continuous days, it's also going to pay you $200,000. Okay. Don't have to die, pays you straight out. Okay. Worst case scenario, just like a life insurance plan, it's going to pay you $200,000 if you pass. So here's the coolest part, right? Obviously that happens to people every single day, but the goal and the objective is for you to outlive the term and it not to happen, and you're healthy, you live a long, happy life. So at the end of this, say it's a 20-year, whatever, it depends on the one that you show them. It's going to give you, and then do the math, right? So whatever that is. So if it's like 600 times 12, I mean, I could sit here and I guess, do it. Hold on. So 600 times 12. Are you guys following me? Just want to make sure I'm not losing you. Okay.
You're good. You're good.
Because I know this is hard. It's probably hard over phone, but like 600 times 12 times, say, 20-year term is 144 grand, right? Okay. So I'm like, okay. So over the course of 20 years, you're going to be paying 144 grand for $200,000 worth of coverage. Okay. The cool part is if you don't die, you get all that back. Right. So like, I just like when you present it to them like that, you show them the cash back, you show them the living benefits, and then you show them it's $600. I don't say a month. I just say 600. And they're like, a month? I'm like, yep, a month. So does that option work for you? Or do you want to look at half? I ask them. And most of the time they'll say that works for me because most people want the full mortgage paid off. Right now, if they're not as healthy, it's a whole nother ball game. Right? Like if they're just, I saw one the other day, they're just insisting on the full mortgage being paid off and there's no way they can qualify for a term, right? That makes sense. Then I will hard sell them all day long on why it makes no, I'm gonna be like, look, even if you were healthy, like I would never even sell my, I really get hard with it. I'm like, I would never even sell my grandparents that. Right? Like that makes no sense. You can accomplish the exact same thing with this equity protection right here. Right. And do the math on their monthly payments. If it's $1,000, $1,000 a month mortgage, rent, whatever, times 12, that's 12 grand. Right. So equity protection would be, 12 grand. So I write it as like 1 year would be, whatever it is, right? Say it's $200 a month. I don't write it as 12 grand. If they ask me, that I'm telling them, obviously, well, yeah, we did the math and it's $1,000 a month, whatever, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of how I transition into that. But you tell people, Nat said it best the other night, like it's literally, you just tell people what to do and they follow. Like there's not really, it's probably seems kind of complicated. It's not really at all. But after you talk to, 100 families about this stuff, it's like this repetition.
Okay. So they go, yeah, that makes sense. Well, now you have to get their banking, driver's license. Yeah. So how do you do that?
Have the kids, making noise. No, I'm just kidding. No. So typically what I'm doing is just letting them know, okay, go ahead. I'm going to need the driver's license and then account and routing number. What's the driver's license number? First thing I say. And then they usually get driver's license number. And then sometimes they'll be like, well, why do you need my bank account information? Like, well, because Josh, it's $600 a month. And for us to get this policy started, we do have to submit with interest, right? You have to be actually interested. They're going to do their due diligence on you. They're going to run some backgrounds, finish up the underwriting, right? If it's approved, it's going to take us 24, 48 hours. If it's approved, first premium will draft. Okay. At that point, if you need to adjust it, if you and the wife talk it over and you want to reduce that to half or increase it, we'll have 30 days that we can make adjustments to the policy.
Awesome.
So which bank is it? I'll go ahead and pull the routing number for you. Again,
right.
You don't want no weird pauses. Like you have to pick it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Have you ever had it where you're like, okay, yeah, grab a driver's license or whatever, and they just kind of sit there and stare at you?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
Yeah, I've had it a few times, and they're like staring at me, and I'm like, "Go grab it." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Probably your wallet.
Yeah. All right. Great. So, all right. So we kind of went through all that. What differences have you seen with now that you're transitioning into telesales?
The only difference, as far as going through it, is I don't mention bank information at all until it's time to get it. That's it. And I think it's, I don't know why I don't. I just think that I don't think it gives me enough. Like when I'm sitting there in person, they see I'm real and friendly and, I'm showing us like I'm there. Right. But when I'm on the phone, they do have my driver's license. I text that to them with my state license, but I don't know. I just feel like I want to build some trust first before I ask for it.
All right. So how do you on the phone, telesales, how do you ask for the bank account? Is there like, do you have a specific word track or a specific way that you ask, or?
Yeah, that was it. So after I run through the option, right, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna submit for the $600, right, 200K policy. All right, we're gonna need the driver's license and then the bank account routing number. What's the driver's license number?
Okay. So you
Yeah.
just tell them, hey, this is what we need. What's
Hmm.
the first step? Got it.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
most of them we don't need the driver's license, but I don't want to just ask for a bank account by itself.
Well, that, and like maybe you have to come back and pivot. I'd rather have it on my paper
Yeah.
than have to call back and ask.
Right. And it saved me a couple of times because people's like, why do you need my bank account? Well, the same reason I needed your social and your driver's license is all three of them have to match. Like, it's illegal to buy a policy in somebody else's name. So, the bank account, like sometimes I explain, I'm like, if the bank account's different than the insured, then you're not technically the owner of the policy. So we would need the bank account of the person that's going to pay for it. So like they all three have to match. So it's for your security, one, and then two, it does cost them money. So if people were just submitting requests all day long, the insurance company probably would be broke because everybody's that wants a quote would actually apply for insurance.
Right. Okay. So we talked about this the other day, and I have my own opinions on it, especially on telesales. Somebody goes, well, I don't want to give out my bank account. Do you run into that much?
It's not a lot. I think it all comes back to like structuring the appointment, like building trust. And I just haven't had it. Like, I don't know what I would say. I would probably I don't know. I'd probably play it off. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. It's since Candy just put it in like trust credibility. I don't know. I don't know.
Here's my 2 cents. I've had it happen a few times, and I think all of the times they didn't say this. They probably didn't want to put in a request, and instead of just saying, I don't want it, I don't like it, it's too expensive, it's too whatever, they said that, and it never worked out anyway. So right. I would say maybe it has something to do with that.
Or maybe it's something they don't understand, right?
Sure.
So maybe
something's not right. Something's not going right.
Whether and it's not always like some people think it's them. Like it's probably very rarely the person. It's probably more so like they're not sold on what they're getting. Right. It's probably more the product. So I think maybe it wasn't explained, or again, like when I'm explaining products, I'm trying to make them feel so dumb that like they feel like an idiot for not getting it, right? Like somebody showing up with a pizza at the door, like, and you're like, I don't want it, but it's free. Take it. I don't want it. It's like, you're an idiot. It's a free pizza. Just eat it. Like it's kind of the same way. Like, I know it's probably a stupid analogy, but that's how I try to make people feel, like, take it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right, cool. So, so if you guys have any questions, we have a couple in chat, post them now. And we'll get to them in a second. But, so here's the big question, Mike. We've been seeing you, post some just monster sales in the chat. And that's kind of your MO, right? You're the guy that drops the big sales, and you've had some really, really big ones. So, what's the secret, man? What's the secret to the big sales?
One thing, I just get in front of a lot of people. Okay. And two, I really believe it's digging in to the money that they're spending already on insurance. So I do a lot of like for instance, that CBO, right? Like think about, yeah, Birdie said, find the money. Like, think about people in general, right? Like, how many times have you showed up to a house or you've been on the phone and someone says they already got some insurance, they're looking for more, right? You know how many times people, like, I've heard this statistic, people buy insurance 6 times in their life. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard it. And I use that a lot. And I tell them, like, you're probably going to get this 2, 3, 4 more times. So why don't we just go ahead and maximize it now? so you don't have to be spending more money later, right? So like go ahead and like find out what they have. If they have a term that's expiring, like dig into what, like, do they have rental properties? What's the difference in husband and wife's income? Right? Like, I mean, there's so many different things, and it's really hard. Like, I'm not good at teaching it because I feel like that I'm very conversational. And I don't do things the same way every single time. And I think it's just every situation's different. And I dig really deep into their situation and I find the difference in income and I find out if they have insurance. I make them go get it. I try to like combine things, right? So if someone's got a, $15,000, say they have a $100,000 accidental that, they're paying $40 a month for it, and they got a 15,000, final expense policy that they're paying $120 for, and a term policy that's going to expire in 3 years that they're paying $100 for, right? That's what, 120, like that's almost like, that's like almost 270, right? Like whatever that is. I suck at math, but I'll add all that up, right? Like that's an amount, like 250, 300, whatever, right? So what I'll do is I'll be, okay, so let's go ahead and get the term policy you want with the cash back that covers your final expenses. The term policy is going to replace the term policy because it's going to pay if you die. And then we can add an accidental rider that's going to be cheaper than what you're paying, and where somebody wants an additional policy, I'm getting that additional policy for them, plus adding in all this other crap that they have. And then I use my death claim experience, right? You know how annoying it is for someone to fill out 4 death claims and submit it to 4 different companies and work with 4 different people? You know how stressful that is? And at the time that you're doing it, you just lost somebody. Like, let's go ahead and wrap this into one policy and just take care of it now. You know what I mean? Like, so like, I think it's just like, I'm just using an example, but that's something I would do in that situation.
No, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, great. All right. So we got a couple questions here and we'll wrap up. So somebody asks, do you find that people are more concerned with face value or premium upfront?
I think premium.
Premium.
Most people want to find a comfortable premium.
Yeah. Find the premium, then find the product or the amount.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Let's see here. How do you find a need for a 70-year-old that has high insurance, but term and wants a higher amount and they can only get 40 max? Let's see. Oh, so, okay. Somebody's 70 years old. Let's say they have a giant term policy and they want some more, but they can only get like up to 40 on a final expense. What would you do?
Okay. So when's it expiring?
Let's say, for sake of argument, we'll say 3 years.
3 years. Okay. So Josh, have you ever been on a game show before?
I actually have. I won the Newlywed Game Show. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, for real.
I mean, okay. Anybody else? Nobody else has been. That's insane. That's hilarious. That didn't work out well. Okay. Okay. No. Well, most people haven't been on a game show. Okay. Everybody wishes they were on a game show, right? Like Price is Right, whatever. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire comes to mind, right? Okay. So, Josh, how old were your parents when they passed away? 79.
Yeah.
Right. Say something like that.
Yep. 79.
79, 80. Okay. All right. So you said this policy is $1 million and it expires in 3 years. Okay. So there's 2 ways that we can play this. Okay. So you can either gamble, right? Like the only way you get $1 million is if you die, right? Like you have to die for that $1 million. That's not guaranteed. Okay. So you can either gamble for $1 million and hope you die in 3 years, or we can put this final expense plan in place and guarantee your wife 40. So would you rather guarantee your wife 40 or gamble for $1 million and possibly end up with nothing? I don't know about you, but unless I was on a game show, I don't want to gamble. My family's worth more than that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how I would probably word that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually had a pretty wealthy gentleman, a retired attorney in that scenario, and he knew it was going to run out. He knew he wasn't going to up it or renew it because he was, late 70s, and he had plenty of money in the bank. He showed me, right? He had 6 figures in a checking account, and he said he wanted a $40,000 whole life policy just because he wanted his wife to have like fast access to that and not have to worry about digging it into all the other stuff.